Those of you that have followed me for a few years know that Mr. Malaska and myself share the same teaching philosophy regarding forces and physics and how the body moves and how we want to use all those everyday things to allow us to swing the golf club more efficiently. And I was asked about the pivot points the other day in the golf swing, and I want to talk about that just because the pivot points play such a key role in the golf swing, and when you understand those, it's going to make you a better player. And if they get off, I want you to understand why and what that could do to your golf swing. The pivot points in the golf swing are basically when the club head changes sides of where your hands are, okay? So when I make my backswing, the club head's on this side of my hands, and then it pivots back over here to this side. Now in the downswing, we want to shallow our hands and arms, and then the club is going to pivot back out in front of our hands right about there, okay? That's pivoting back out in front of us, okay? Now on the forward swing, once we're through impact, it pivots back over here like this. So we have there, that's the one pivot point on this side, then there, and then as it goes through, it goes over there, okay? Now, when you understand that, and that you're trying to shallow your hands and arms from this position, that's the next thing you need to understand that will really help your golf swing. If you try to start kind of overpowering it and getting the twisties, as opposed to letting this little motion happen right here, we're going to talk about what goes on there and why that's going to make you better. So basically what happens when you get to this point in the backswing, this golf club actually wants to go this direction. And this is something that when I saw Mike talk about this, I was like, oh great, somebody is agreeing. And this is fantastic because it's gaining weight and force, and we have to offset it to get the club back out in front of us in the proper arc. And that is such a big deal. So when I saw Mike talking about what's been dubbed the Malaska move, this thing right here, okay, I always just talked about it as getting that club head back out in front of you, okay? That's just what I called it. And now it's been dubbed the Malaska move. We kind of joke about that a little bit. But what it isn't a unhinging of the wrists trying to do that, okay? It isn't letting the club go here and then really trying to whip the club to catch up. It isn't storing this angle and trying to pull that handle. That's not what it is. It's actually just the feeling that you bring your hands and arms, just kind of just tip the club head out into this correct arc. And what's interesting is when you do that, and once momentum turns this corner, okay, now it's just whoosh, it pulls your body around. And when you learn to push away a little bit and offset that momentum even more, now you create more speed. And here's where we're extremely similar. That pivoting of the club is genius, okay? Now, what you feel and what shows up are two different things. But understanding you want to feel that motion, okay? It's just this little motion right here, and you can see how much lag I'm maintaining, okay? It's not dumping and throwing the club away. It's just this little motion right here, and that is such a key factor in directing that club in the proper arc. And when your grip is on the golf club correctly and you understand just how to direct that momentum, you're going to be much more accurate and you're going to be longer. Now with the pivot points and getting yourself in trouble, anytime you try to store this angle and not allow the club to get back out in front of you sooner rather than later, this can be a big swing killer. I was actually taught this and really had to develop some seriously good timing to try to square the club face, and it really made me go from a good player to really struggling for quite a while. And even when I got it down, it still was inconsistent. Yeah, I could hold on to it and play good for a little while, but then all of a sudden 4 or 5 holes, that golf ball was going I don't know where, and that really was causing a lot of trouble for scoring. Now the other one is throwing that club head out and unhinging your wrists. It's such a big deal to allow your hands and arms to shallow. It almost feels like you pin this lead arm against your chest as you start to pivot the club back out in front of you like this, and that's what's going to get that club and that correct arc. So don't try to store this angle, because that's going to lead to flipping, or you're really going to have to try to rotate as hard as you can, and that's really leading you down a road of injury that you don't want to play with too much. And then if you start throwing that club out, that's going to give you that really far out over the top, and that's never a good thing, and you don't want to deal with that. It's really important that you understand the pivot points and how it all works and blends out. And then when you understand how to offset momentum and how to really not let your body invade the space where your hands and arms want to come to, and how the club wants to work into the golf ball, and when you actually push away, it speeds everything up. That's really when the golf swing starts to click and it becomes easier. But again, you must master the basics first. You have to have your fundamentals down. You have to have grip, posture, ball position, all those things matter. But as soon as you understand that, and then it's just this little pivot motion, pivoting the club back out in front of you, you can play some extremely good golf. And it's very easy on your body, and it's extremely efficient in the golf swing.